Across Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, the winter storm of '93 began as rain, thunder, snow, and sleet. By storm's end, over 230 people would lose their lives. The impact would be felt from Cuba to Canada. Earlier that week, even before people saw the first effects, forecasters identified the ingredients that would create this superstorm.
Primarily, there were three things. One, a very big late-season Arctic outbreak plunging down pretty much right over the North Pole and down into the lower 48 of the United States. Second ingredient was warm, humid air lurking over the Gulf of Mexico, Florida, and the Gulf Stream, and the warm waters themselves. And last but not least, very big dip in the jet stream, a couple disturbances helping carve that out, and that created this immense cluster of thunderstorms over the Gulf of Mexico, and once that happened, everything just went crazy. This one had everything came together perfectly, and the rest is history.
But it's not going to be a 2 or 3 day event. It won't have to be. It's going to go down in the record books. Bet on that.
In the Gulf of Mexico, winds increased to hurricane force. Water began to batter the coastline of northwestern Florida.
About another hour before it's high tide, so you know we're going to have some water down here.
By early morning, the storm surge reached 10 feet in places. The beach communities of Taylor and Dixie counties were caught by surprise.
Absolute horror is all I can tell you. We did not get enough warning, and nobody realized it would be this bad. If we knew there was going to be flooding, we would have left.
And I kept thinking it was going to let up, but it never let up. It just kept coming. Well, I watched my house fold pieces at the time, and I was standing on the back deck, and when the back deck went to fall in, that's when I got off of it. And there wasn't no fighting. We just swam with it and let it carry us till we got to where we touched ground.
Waves and debris crushed homes, tossed cars, and destroyed lives.
And I was so scared, and I was praying, and I was praying and praying and praying, and I'd fall on my knees, and I started hearing people scream for help. And there was a gentleman, the first one that come through between the firehouse out there and the house, and I was in that bedroom window right up there. And I had my window open at that time because it was coming mostly from this direction. And I said, honey, hold on to something. He said, oh, God, somebody help me. And I screamed as loud as I could scream. And I said, grab something and hang on. And I never did hear another word from him, and they found him under that debris pile out there, and he lost his life.
9 other residents in the beach communities lost their lives during the storm. For many people, the water rose so fast, escape was impossible.
When we came out to walk out, the car was floating. The truck had already drifted off, and we just decided,
the
I
boat
told her,
was gone, everything was
we'd better
going.
just stay here. In just a few minutes, the front part of the old trailer began to just disintegrate.
Ray and Lucy Bailey, in their 80s, managed to hang on to this palm tree for 4 hours, their heads just above water. They were finally rescued by neighbors.
It was hard work to stay in that tree. I think a desire to live had a lot to do with it.
Within hours, the water was gone, and so were entire rows of houses. In Dixie and Taylor counties, over 500 structures were destroyed. Another 500 were damaged. Although the forecast for the storm was accurate, emergency management officials were surprised by the magnitude of the tidal surge and the destructive power of the winds.
We believe that the storm was underestimated, the flooding part of the storm. I think people were aware we were going to have some severe weather, primarily tornadoes and things of that nature, but the flooding, the tidal surge, we believe was underestimated, and these are things that we need to work on. So we do have that lead time to move people out of the low-lying areas, so we're not impacted with the flooding.
How did the storm create such a large surge? As the low-pressure system intensified in the Gulf of Mexico, the winds ahead of the storm strengthened out of the south. This may have helped pile water up into the northeastern Gulf. strong westerly winds then swept in to create the main storm surge, which reached 9 to 12 feet in places.
This was rather unprecedented now. You have to remember in its scope. It's almost unheard of to get that kind of a storm surge from a storm in the Gulf of Mexico in a non-tropical system, and that's what this was.
The storm threatened lives at sea as well as on land. The Coast Guard rescued over 160 people from the swirling seas. As wind and water hammered Florida's northwest Gulf Coast, other areas of the state were being pounded by a tremendous line of severe storms. Trees and power lines fell from Tallahassee to West Palm Beach. Ironically, a tornado touched down in Dade County, destroying one of the tent cities built to house those who had lost everything to Hurricane Andrew.
We actually observed the funnel cloud just above us. And once I got my heart out of my mouth and looked out the window, we saw that the tents were just blowing away. And we literally lost 24 tents right then within a matter of minutes.
All residents were evacuated. Later, they returned to find their temporary homes demolished.
A terrible experience. It was a heartbreaking experience to see the little things that I save and I have with my kids, my 5 kids, I lose everything again. And I had to start all over again, fresh.
Like those inflicted by Hurricane Andrew, the scars from this storm will not easily heal.
I relive it when I go to bed. The people that lost their life, and I can't help but blame myself because I couldn't get to them. But God was merciful, and he saved my life.